Hello again. I'm going to try and show you today how I made the panel for this card. It's got a relief on it. I've distressed it a little, added some gilding wax, one embellishment and a sentiment, and it was done. So the things I used to create this card were very, very simple. Four things, just four things. I used a stamp, I used some water, I used a little brush and some toilet paper. So this is how I did it. I'll show you. This is an I've had this stamp for ages. It's an ideal stamp for this process because in fact it's a negative stamp. When you use it with ink, the ink would be put in all the outside areas and the image itself of the flowers and foliage and stuff would be left plain. So it's like a negative. But for this process, it means that this part, which would be blank space on a card, on an impression with ink, will be raised with this process. So I'm just going to use 5 pieces of toilet paper. You could use paper napkins, or you could use kitchen towel. How am I doing there? 3, 4, 5. So put that out of the way. And it's so simple. It's just you lay a piece of toilet paper over the stamp. Now, because this is quite a big stamp, in fact, if I were to wet it all over, it would stick to the edges and the middle might have a bit of difficulty pulling in to go right down into all the crevices. So what I'm going to do is just water the middle first. God, I don't get better for keeping. Good grief. So I'm wetting the middle. Now with my little, this is a little, oh, my bristles are coming out. I think it's for putting, you know, a colour duster thing. But it's got fairly stiff bristles, and so it'll do for this. And what I'm doing on the first layer is being reasonably gentle, just to tamp away and tap the paper, the wet paper, so that it goes and lines all these little individual crevices. Now, when I think I've got the middle in, I'm going to do the outside and just tamp that down. There's one side and the other side. There we go. Now, if in the ordinary way, if my stamp was small enough, I would probably put the next one on this way. But as you can see, the paper's not long enough to do the whole length of the stamp. So I'm just going to stick in the same orientation all the time. Here we go. Wet down the middle and tamp it in. I can be a little bit firmer this time than I was on the first time, because I want this one to follow exactly behind where the last one was. Do the side and the other side. I'll probably drown in the process. Oh, it's getting all down here. Right, another layer. It's actually just the right size for this stamp. Any longer and I would have had the joins going across, but I think it probably would have done. Right down the middle first. Make sure it gets in. Each layer that you put obviously on the top, the actual image is not quite as distinct as on the one before, because a lot of those crevices are getting filled. But I'll just try and do this as quickly as I can, in fact. Make sure it goes in. I'll hold this up to the camera in a moment so you can actually just see the pattern up the middle. You can use a skinnier brush if you want to. I just thought this would do more in one go, and I just happened to find it in the drawer, so that's why I'm using it. But any brush with, you know, reasonably stiff bristles, you need something with a little bit of resistance to it to be able to push the paper into all the little crevices. Right, last one coming up. There we are, up the middle. It says Andrex, but you won't see it when it's on, because once the layers are tamped together, the embossing that is existing on the toilet paper at the moment will all get flattened. All the bits will join together. I'll do the other side as well while I'm at it. It'll all join together and fuse with the water, and we won't see. You can, well, I'll hold it up. Can you see there? You can't see the embossing at all. Now I am going to just wipe this mat a minute. There we go. Now I'm going to carefully lift this off. Do you see? Can you see that? It looks lovely, and even these tiny bits down the bottom here are showing, and it's as flat as anything. No sign of that embossing. You can't see Andrex all over it. So that now needs to dry. I am really impatient, and sometimes I have been known, I have to say, to use my heat gun to speed up the process, but it does need to dry. Before it dries completely, I'm going to just cut off this excess and then just slightly distress the edges so that it all looks a bit sort of like that. Can you see the rough bits, which is where the perforations were? But I'm going to cut down there. So I will have a piece a bit like this. And now I need to use anything I've got just to distress these edges a little bit. This one is in fact still a little bit damp. It's a little bit damp. I say I'm such a creature of impatience that I don't like waiting for stuff. I'm hopeless, absolutely hopeless. So we just rough up the edges a little bit to make it a bit like a torn. I probably could have, I could try tearing that. I don't know if it'll, I'll try it in a minute and see. It often with tearing, it depends which orientation of the paper you've got. I don't know if you've noticed, but sometimes a piece of newspaper, pull it one way and you get a nice long strip straight. You try and rip it 90 degrees around the corner and it just goes like this. It's hopeless. It's to do with, I don't know, the way the paper's made, I think. I don't really know. Just distress this up a bit. Any tool that you've got that's got a sharpish edge will do this distressing. But now I really should wait until it's properly dry. But I just want to show you how I would get the relief to show by using some gilding wax. I've die cut a little butterfly. This is memory box little butterfly. Just cut one of those, that piece of scrap card, and put some gilding wax over the top of that. And if you buff it up after you've put it on, it does shine up beautifully. This is also memory box. Thank you, die and shadow. So all I do to add gilding wax is little on my finger, on the table, on the glass mat first, and then just hit the highlights like this. Just touch the tops and it just picks it up. If you put a blob straight out of the pot, if you put your finger in the pot and then onto here, often you could have a big lump sticking on the bottom of your finger. If you're not careful, that big blob will finish up on your work, and you don't necessarily want to have that. So just take it. That's why I always go from the pot to the mat, and from thence add it. So you can see we're going to add some to the distressing around the edge. You get the idea. And that's how it is when it's finished. But you can add as much of this gilding wax as you like, and it dries really quite quickly. But if you just take a paper towel and buff it, it gets nice and shiny. Comes off a little bit on there, and that will help it get a nice sheen. So there we are. I don't know what you call this process really. Embossing toilet paper? Could be. I don't know. You can also do the same process in an embossing folder. So you would just get your embossing folder, whatever it happens to be. What have I got here? I've got hearts. You would put in your toilet paper, spritz with water, another layer, spritz with water, another layer, spritz with, and so on. Close it up and put it through your die cutting machine, and there you would have a whole sheet of embossed, and the toilet paper will stick together like this. The layers will stick together. So a little more food for thought. So got any spare toilet paper? Just have a go. Thanks for watching.